Welcome in. Belly up, have a seat, and grab a drink. Oh, I'm going to be drinking a lot as we talk some Wingman Fantasy Football. Welcome into another edition of Wingman Fantasy Football, the League podcast. I'm your host, Michael Furley, and as always, I'd like to thank all of you, or any of you who may be watching or listening to today's show. This is episode 139, a Week 15 rewind, and it is my great pleasure to welcome back to the bar Mr. Bernie, a.k.a. Team B.
I'm Cuban B. Yes, Cuban B.
How are you doing today, Bernie?
I am lovely, and you know what? We've been doing this for a while. How are you doing today, Michael?
Well, I don't know. I'm beat up in more ways than one, but that is neither here nor there. I'm ready to get into this week's rewind.
Let's do it.
All right. Thanks for asking, though. Appreciate that. All right, guys. In this show, we will start off with some player news, and there's some big news out today. We will also recap week number 15 of the Wingman Fantasy Football League, and then we'll see who's left for a chance to win the Wingman title. We'll also take a gander at our Gooso-meter. Strap in. Strap in for a Mike Rant. And we're going to take a glance at some waiver wire targets. And we'll also evaluate our starts of the week from the previous week. And I hate to say it, we have two more sad puppies. But before we do any of that, let's make sure that everybody is in the room. Wingmen assemble! All right, now that everyone is here, let's get into some news and notes. All right, starting off with some bad news. I don't like to hear this. David Montgomery, superstar running back for the Detroit Lions, tore his MCL, and he will require surgery, meaning he's going to miss the rest of the season, including the playoffs for the Lions. And in all reality, that's the most important thing, and that sucks. David Montgomery's out for the rest of the year. Mason Rudolph hears those jingle bells a-calling. It's his time of the year as he's been named the starter for the Titans for Week 16, only a week too late. Patrick Mahomes was a full participant in practice, looking like he may not miss any time on that bum ankle. And staying in Kansas City, Hollywood Brown was a full participant in practice, and it looks like he's going to make his 2024 season debut. All right, let's check in on these four guys here. Bernie, what do you have on Montgomery, Rudolph, the red-nosed quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, and Hollywood Brown?
All right. The Lions, man. I heard they have like 22 starters on like IR or injured or some craziness like that. Unbelievable. All right. David Montgomery. Jahmyr Gibbs, he's going to rocket to a high-end RB2 status overall, only behind Saquon Barkley probably. Craig Reynolds, he becomes a priority waiver wire ad as the clear backup. And then pretty much Montgomery can be dropped from any redraft leagues. Let's see. I'm sorry. It's just tough thinking about the Lions. All right, Mason Rudolph. Rudolph is only a desperation QB play. So minor downgrade for the Titans pass catcher. So not DeAndre Hopkins.
I think it's an upgrade, my man.
Okay, yeah. We'll say an upgrade. It's a minor upgrade. No significant impact though to anybody's value. You agree with that?
I don't, because I mean
that streak everybody's value goes up.
That streak for Westbrook Akine began, or at least was continued along with Rudolph. Rudolph played in 2.5 games. Mm-hmm. Calvin Ridley had his most targets and most yards and catches in the games that he played. So I think with them keeping drives going at a normal length, there's just more opportunities for everybody to get catches.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay. All right, Patrick Mahomes. So he appears to be on track to start with the Texans on Saturday. It's unlikely that we have a final answer for that until right before game time, though. I think they've got the Christmas game right after that, so it's a real short turnaround. So they could put in Carson Wentz, I think, to possibly start that Saturday game, and then have Patrick play on the Christmas game. So this is one of those things where it's a downgrade for most of the assets over there, but not a huge downgrade. Carson Wentz is serviceable, but the logistics of playing Patrick Mahomes to get them the bye or resting him through so he's 100% coming into the playoffs. So that's really going to be the catch. I think he'll be okay. This is the similar injury that he had last year. And he played through that. So I think everything will be good over there. Hollywood Brown, I wouldn't put him in the fantasy lineups if activated right away, but I mean, if you look at my starts of the week record, you probably want to start him right away. But as far as the Chiefs coming up on, if Hollywood Brown plays, that might open up some more looks for Worthy, honestly, if Hollywood Brown is on the field at the same time. So
I think the Chiefs they're up 2 games. I don't know if that includes the tiebreaker, but they have a 2-game lead with 3 games to go. Yep. My thinking, first of all, I'm kind of surprised he's able to even practice, but if he is, he is. My thought process here is that they're like, let's just get this done, and then he can have 3 weeks off or 2 weeks off, as opposed to giving him 1.5 week off and the whole time being like, you ever like to? I remember when I first used to do my routes at UPS, I used to not take lunch until I was done with like the majority of my work. Yeah, because I didn't want to be like unsettled during lunch.
Right.
And then now as I got older, I'm like, I know how much time things take. I can be settled and still have work ahead of me. So I think they don't want to have him taking that time off and feel like, what if we don't bring him back in time? What if we lose a couple games and then we're like stressed to win that last game? I think they'd rather just get it in the bag,
right,
and then relax is what I'm thinking.
But what if they put Carson Wentz in and he gets this rest at least, because it's going to be a short week.
Well, I think he's going to try and play this week and then not play Christmas.
Right, but here's the behind the scenes of it all. The Christmas games were put in there with like the high priority teams. So the NFL definitely does not want Carson Wentz to be starting on a Christmas game. They want Patrick Mahomes to start that Christmas game. So how much influence now does the NFL, schedule makers, the script writers, how much exactly. So maybe there's like a couple bonuses or something thrown the Chiefs' way that's like, hey, if you can get Pat playing on the Christmas game, that would be great for everybody here. One of those kind of deals. So,
right. I don't know. I mean, player safety first, right?
It is. But if Carson wins this game, then Pat's out for even longer time that he doesn't have to play.
Right.
So, okay.
I think they're going to plan for him to play, and then they can always pull the ripcord the other direction. Maybe.
Exactly. And he could start and not finish. That's a possibility as well.
Yeah, if they get a lead. If they get a lead, they can all right, you're definitely not playing the fourth quarter if we're up by 2.5 scores with 10 minutes to go.
Exactly.
All right, let's moving along here. We've got George Pickens. It technically was considered a walkthrough today, not one of those official practices.
Oh, wait, hold on. Go back one.
I did miss one. You're right.
DTR.
Yep. So the Browns have now indicated that Jameis Winston is back to being the backup. He's going to be behind Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who is going to get the start for the Browns this week against Cincinnati. George Pickens has not yet practiced, although it was just a designation. But that's still not good that he's they can say whatever they want on these kind of walkthrough days. With the fact they said he wouldn't have practiced is not a good start to his week. I believe they play Saturday as well. Jalen Waddle, this is just like always. It looks like he goes out with a bad injury. I don't want to make fun of injuries, but it always feels like he has a bad injury and there's like, no, I'm cool. He's avoided a serious injury and he's listed as day to day. And Jaleel McLaughlin is listed as missing practice on Tuesday with a quad injury. I don't know if they actually had a practice or not, but they are playing Thursday night, so this designation is a little more weighty than the teams that are playing on Sunday or later. So McLaughlin has missed practice starting the week, and they play on Thursday night. All right, what do you have on a quarterback change in Cleveland? George Pickens with a bad start. Jalen Waddle is never really all the way hurt, just banged up, and Jaleel McLaughlin may miss this week, but we're not sure yet.
Yeah, so DTR, low end quarterback 3, even in favorable Bengals matchup. So potential slight upgrade for the Browns rushing attack due to his mobility, but a downgrade, I think, for the receivers that are going to be on the field there. Not a huge one though, but a minor one.
Jerry Judy's train is going to come to a halt.
A major one if you're okay, there we go. All right, George Pickens. Not trending positively, so that's a bad thing. I would keep him benched until he practices fully. Who's going to be the clear wide receiver one though? That's the thing. Is Mike Williams' role going to increase? Is Freiermuth going to continue to get more looks? I don't think they have a clear cut number one if Pickens doesn't play to replace him. Jalen Waddle. Are we dropping Jalen Waddle? Are we holding Jalen Waddle? What are we starting him? Are we benching him? That's been what I have struggled with to get there. Tyreek's got an ankle situation as well, right? So this is more crucial. So Braxton Berrios, and then who's the other guy? Malik Washington.
Malik Washington might get a step up here.
Yeah, might get a little bump there as well. And then McLaughlin. I think he could upgrade to playing on Thursday versus the Chargers. So he's a flex though. That whole backfield is so risky though because that coach just can't make a commitment to any of them. He's like a hot hand, seems like kind of coach at this point.
Let's have a little half discussion here. Let's pretend that we know McLaughlin's out. You think it's a 50-50 split between Javonte Williams and Estime, or is he going to try and give one a lead chance?
No, I think he favors towards Williams more than it does Estime. I think Estime is gonna. I think it would be more like a 60-40 at the max kind of split. I would even go 70-30.
Like I said, we know he trusts Williams in terms of just overall play, not necessarily running.
Yeah,
not the position. He's a better offensive lineman than the other guys.
Exactly, and the way that Bo Nix played last week or this past week. I would say he wants the more experienced back on that field at the time.
And it's actually a huge game. I'm not sure the exact math here, but essentially the winner of this game is in control of their own destiny, make the playoffs, and the loser is all but out. I mean, maybe not completely, but is going to need help because these teams are both pretty much have that I don't know their records. They're about 2 games over 500, maybe 1 game over 500, and the loser of this game is going to drop down to where they're going to need a lot of help to have a chance to make it.
Exactly. And then who's the other guy there? Is it P. Ryan that's over there?
And no, he's P. Ryan's he was there last year. He's in Kansas City this time.
He's in Kansas City. Okay, never mind.
All right, moving on. These are all your players here, Bernie. I just realized 4 in a row here. We're going to do the next 4. Alvin Kamara has been diagnosed with an abductor injury. However, there's really been no indication whether or not he's going to miss any time. They just said they need more tests. The test revealed what the specific injury was, but they didn't give a timetable or severity or anything like that, so I don't know what that means. Kenneth Walker hopes to return to practice this week and has a chance to return to the lineup for the Seahawks, but who knows? Geno Smith, who injured his knee on the Sunday night game, hopes to practice this week, and he hopes to remain the team's starter fighting through that injury. They are in a big-time playoff push as well. That loss last week really hurt them, but they're still okay. So they don't want to go to the backup quarterback in such a time here. And Nick Chubb, like we said, he broke his foot on Sunday. However, the good news is he's not expected to need any surgery to repair that, just the normal 6 to 8 weeks to stay off a broken bone there. So he should be ready for full off-season workouts. All right, what do you have on all of your players, Kamara, Walker, Smith, and Chubb?
Well, I don't have any of the backups, so don't start any of the running backs. Late game for Kamara, so that you don't want to risk that unless you have Kendra Miller. He's your go-to there. Walker, if you've got Charbonnet, you're winning. I wouldn't start him either, and I won't. And then Nick Chubb, if you've got Ford, you're winning. Ford will be at the top of the waiver wire report for running backs this week. I don't think it's a huge drop off for any of those players, despite that those starters are better than those backups. But the team situations for all of them doesn't make Charbonnet any less valuable than Walker. as far as getting fantasy points, or the other two. The Cleveland is a hot mess right now, and it's looking like New Orleans is turning into a hot mess as well because of their quarterback situations.
All right, and our biggest news of the day, at least in my opinion here, this is the latest breaking news, just came in about an hour ago or so as we were getting this together. Michael Penix has officially been named the starter for the Falcons going forward, supplanting Kirk Cousins as the Falcons pass thrower here. What do you have on this game, this player here, this news? We're going to take a little time talking about this since we didn't get a recap in our 2-point conversation since this was the Monday night game. So what do you have on the quarterback change? Then we can talk a little more about it as in general.
Yeah, so I would say he's a risky quarterback to play. If you're in the playoffs, I wouldn't be starting him, and you have to be real desperate if you're going to start him in the playoff situation now, being his first actual big game start with them having to win. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Mooney, what's the other guy's name? McLeod. I would be real cautious starting any of them going forward. So look at who else you have and maybe send in some comments, some sit-start questions, and we can maybe help you out there and give you a little advice on what to do with the Atlanta situation if you've got other wide receivers. That's really it, though. He does offer something, though. He offers youth. He offers some explosion. He offers some mobility. So he's got things that he offers. We just don't know in a full game how the NFL speed, how the decision making, how those defenses changing are going to affect him. But the last big advantage he has is there's no actual NFL tape on him. So that's always a good thing. But outside of preseason.
So the thing I noticed while I was watching that game last night, anxiously and depressingly by the end. Anyway, so they kept cutting over to Penix as Cousins was clearly not being effective. Let's put it that way. They kept cutting over to Penix on the sideline, and I don't know if impressed is the right word, but I noticed like he wasn't sitting down on the bench. He had his helmet on the entire time, which makes me think one, he was either ready to go in. Or I think more likely, I think he was listening to all the play calls coming in through the headset. Yeah. As opposed to just kind of like watching, like he had his helmet on the whole time on the sideline. So I think he was kind of visualizing the game as it was coming through as it would be if he's on the field, not just watching where people are open, but like the commute, because that's a big deal to these guys is not being overwhelmed, getting the snaps off, knowing when to like repeat the play. I mean, Kirk Cousins, the thing that he did bad last night, not only did he not throw the ball well or often, but they had a lot of false starts and a lot of delayed games and a lot of stuff that I was surprised. That was the thing that kind of not upset me, but disappointed me the most is that they weren't cohesive just in the way they were running their plays. Right. I mean, obviously you can have execution problems. I mean, success rates, but not getting into the plays on time and getting penalty every time they get a 5 or 6 yard run, they get a 5 yard penalty right after it. And we knew that Cousins couldn't throw the ball. They were always behind the chains, not because of the plays from scrimmage, but a lot of times because of these false starts and delay games. Right,
which you're absolutely right. It's disappointing because you don't expect that from a veteran quarterback like Kirk Cousins. He commands that offense. He commands any offense that he should be in. So those linemen, everything, he's in full control and he is capable of doing it. That's the other disappointing thing is that he is a stat producer. He was a stat producer last year. And it's not that he has lack of talent around him. So something else is going on, man. Something else. I don't know.
I heard someone compare him to late stage Peyton Manning, where just maybe his arm's just dead.
Ooh.
I hope that's not the case.
Atlanta's defense isn't that good.
Right, exactly. All right, guys. Now it is time to take a look back at the Week 15 Rewind.
Let's go back. Week 15 Rewind.
All right, guys. We had several teams on bye this week in our brackets, including Bernie's team B over here had a bye. So we have a couple less games to go through, and I think we all appreciate that. We're going to start off in our little boy bracket. We had our Knicks Waddle away, who came in at 6 8 to end his season. And I guess that would have made him, I'm not sure what seed that would be. Let's see, 7, 8, 9. He'd be the 9th seed against Ken's the Fantastics, who finished at 3 and 11 and was our 12th seed. And this one went about as expected here, as Nick's Waddle Away took this one down at a score of 100 even. Can you believe he scored 100 on the dot to 90.96? Let's see how, and unfortunately for the Fantastics, he has now lost 3 games in a row.
You're as cold as ice.
It's not the first time that's happened for him, but nonetheless, it happened once again. All right. So Nick's Waddle took this one down. Let's see what players helped him get there. He was one of those players, just like our studs and duds. He was boom and or bust. He had the highest of booms with Devontae Adams. Oh, Devontae Adams had 38.3 points.
He's on fire.
And Jonnu Smith, this guy, he's on the train, man. Jonnu Smith, one of the best free agent pickups of the season at 15.3 points, only matching his Jamar Chase, who's also on the train, even though he had a little bit of a down game for him, 13.9 points for Jamar Chase. All right, here. All right, now there were some duds, however, for Nick's Waddle Away, as he had Matt Stafford get only 8.2 points from the quarterback position and Isaiah Pacheco at 5.2. He did have a strong tight end on his bench. I don't know how he didn't put him in his lineup. Sam Laporta. He plays him after the good games, and he gets a bad game, and then he sits him after the bad games, and he gets a good game. This time he had 14.6 points. There were no injuries to note for Nick's Waddle Away team. Now for the Fantastics, who actually had one of his higher scoring games for the year, honestly. And half of his points, remember he had 90 total points, half his points came from one player. Jared Goff had 41.06 points.
He's heating up.
And he had the little lad, McConkey, had 23.1. Oh, did he have 23.1? Or is that wrong? I think he had 16 something.
14.3.
Yeah, I didn't write that thing. Right player, didn't change the score. 14.3?
Correct.
All right, sorry about that. So Ladd McConkey had 14.3, but he was a top performer. Now for his duds, and he had a few here. He had Tyreek Hill only get 4.6 points. Deebo Samuel only had 3.4 points. And the San Francisco defense, for the second time in 3 weeks, got him 0 points. He did have one strong player on his bench, as Keenan, hey, Allen got 17.2 points on the bench. He did have one injury, however, as Tony Pollard was in and out of the lineup as he was struggling with an ankle injury.
Oh, no.
All right, so the loser of this game is now the Fantastic is going to play in the 11th place game. So his season has only one more game left in it. The best he can do is 11th. If he loses one more game, he's going to finish in 12th. On to our next game in the little boys bracket, in the little bracket here. We have Reggie's Illini, who has been rolling lately at against Katie's King George. Both these guys finished the regular season at 5-9. This is a rematch from last week's game where Illini took it, and he kept it going as he took this one down as well with a monster score, 133.9 to Katie's King George, 74.44. This was the highest scoring team of the week for Illini, and this was also the biggest blowout of the week.
You got knocked the fuck out, man.
Reggie's Illini won by more than 59 points. And whenever you have the highest score of the week versus the lowest score of the week, that's what you get, those big blowouts. And like I said, Katie's King George was the lowest score of the week. It's not going to mean too much for him now, but Reggie's Illini is actually peaking the right time for the consolation bracket, as he's now won 3 games in a row, and he is rolling. All right, Lionize had 5 players in his top performer list, and they had a huge score, starting off with Lamar Jackson at 38.1 points.
He's on fire.
Jahmyr Gibbs at 25.9 points.
He's heating up.
Terry McLaurin at 22.8 points.
He's on fire.
Tyler Bass, his kicker, at 15 points. And Jackson Smith and Jigba added 13.3 points.
He's heating up.
His only dud was Brock Austin Bowers at 5 points. Not only did he have high players in his lineup, he had just as high scores on his bench, as his bench has been blowing up lately, starting off with rookie Brian Thomas Jr. at 27.5 points on the bench.
He's on fire.
Rashad White at 15.1 points on the bench.
He's heating up.
The Beach Boy, Garrett Wilson, had 13.1 points on the bench.
He's heating up.
And he had the sneakiest defense. Too bad he didn't put him in his lineup. The Cincinnati defense had 13 points, and they could have had more. All right, now for Katie's King George with that low score. She didn't have too many players perform too well. Jerry Judy, though, had 16. Jerry the Judge Judy had 16.3 points, and he is chugging along. And she had the Kansas City defense chip in with 11 points. She did have 2 duds, however, as David Montgomery, who left the game early, only had 5.5 points. And Roma Dudze had only 4.9 points. There were some players on her bench who actually had some decent days, but it definitely wouldn't have been enough to catch line eyes. Bucky Irving had 12.7 points, and Brandon McManus had 12 points. And like we mentioned, the injury was David Montgomery is out for the year, just finishing off with the rest of Katie's King George injury-ravaged season.
Oh, no.
I didn't ask you about our last game because really, who cares? But this game, let's talk about this one here. What do you have on line eyes getting hot at a nice time of the year? Too bad he didn't have those wins banked in earlier. He'd be a scary, scary playoff out. And Katie's King George, the injuries just never subsided and ended her season the way she started it.
Oh, yes. Lion Eyes doing it just like he did last year. Finishing up real strong, and he'll play me in the last game, and he'll lose, and I'll get 7th, and he'll get 8th. Just like last year. No, he's doing a great job. He's still working the waiver wire, and he has been for the past few weeks. He's got a solid team. He's got a great team. But it just too little, too late. Just they all peaked at the wrong time. So it's one of those things, man. He's a good fantasy manager, and he's doing good things. You just can't win a game.
I think for him, now we all do it. In the beginning of the year, right now he's having all his receivers booming at the same time.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the year, he had half. It was always somebody, and he was picking the wrong guy. He was chasing the points from the last week. He would see Brian Thomas have a big game, then put him in. Then he'd have not a great game. Then he'd take him out. Same with Terry McLaurin when he was in the beginning of the year. He was a little bit up and down until he got rolling real strong there. So he was chasing those points and always made the wrong lineup decision to start the year. And once everyone got hot at the same time and it didn't matter, he's been killing it lately.
Yeah, and then for Katie, that Christian McCaffrey thing just really, really hurt. She was just playing from behind, kind of, Zay Flowers, like... Why does everybody on this team on the other side, Lamar over here, is throwing 5 touchdown passes for Lion Eyes, and he can't get Zay Flowers one of them? Like, come on, man, come on. So she got let down there a little bit, and then David Montgomery getting hurt and not really at full speed, even though he finished the game. That's a bummer as well. So she had a chance to have some big points, but oh well.
So not only did she lose her first round pick, her first overall pick. Then she lost Olave for multiple stints in the concussion. She lost her 3rd round pick in Mike Evans for about 3 or 4 weeks with that hamstring injury. She had Montgomery as her 5th pick, who lasted a long time, but now she's lost her 5th pick. So literally she has none of her first 5 picks even going on her team anymore. And there's other guys in there included, but you can't overcome that. And she tried her best.
She did. I feel your pain, Katie. I feel your pain.
All right, on to our next game. We are moving up to the big boy bracket. This one, we had our 3-time back-to-back champ, or 4-time overall champ, but 3 times in a row. Jimerson's Red Sox Nation, lucky to be here against Michael's Amazing Spidey. And the hopes for a 4-peat is intact as Red Sox Nation took this one down 127.3 to 117.66. Our big boy bracket did not disappoint as all these scores were huge, which means there were high-scoring losers all over the place. For Michael's Amazing Spidey, he was our highest-scoring loser at 117.66 points.
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal. You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
All right, let's see what players helped Red Sox Nation take this one down as he had a monster score all over the place, starting off with Jalen. I keep the ball when I want it. Hurts had 30.1 points.
He's heating up.
C.D. Lamb at 22.1 points.
He's heating up.
Malik, won't you be my...
Won't you be my neighbor?
Neighbors had 19.2 points, getting his first touchdown since week 3. Congratulations. Way to go, Malik Neighbors. We're so proud of you. Rico Dowdle also had another fine day at 14.9 points, and he's on fire.
He's on fire.
And Trey McBride of Frankenstein.
Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Had 13.2 points without getting in the end zone, despite the best efforts of the Arizona Cardinals to get him in there. Without a touchdown, he outscored his quarterback on the same team. Impossible! But it happened. All right, there were no duds for Red Sox Nation, and he still had some quality players on his bench, including Baker Mayfield at 30.02 points.
He's heating up.
Xavier Worthy at 16.6 points.
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
And Quentin Stonehands Johnston had 13 points.
He's heating up.
Now on to Amazing Spidey, who really had a great score. Couldn't have played a better lineup. He only had 1 point extra on his bench for his choices here. So he was going to lose this game, I guess, no matter what. It was just, it's hard to get that big of a score and lose, but that's what happens when you get to the big boy bracket. It's not easy. He had Mike Evans at 32.4 points. Josh Jacobs has been a godsend at 21.6 points, and he is chugging along. Brandon Aubrey chipped in with 16 points. Do you think we should add a bonus for 70-yard field goal attempts next year? I mean, my goodness.
for attempts, no.
No, not for attempts. But
for actual makes.
Although I am thinking
yes.
about maybe there's been so many 60-yard kicks this year, or in the last 2.5 years, of maybe adding a 6 point for 60, but maybe taking away the bonus for the 40 or something. I don't have too many points for kickers. But those 60s are big-time kicks.
Yeah, they are. They are, for sure. Especially this past year.
And then the great Bijan.
Pardon me, would you have any Grey Poupon?
Had a fine day at 14 points as he's on fire.
He's on fire.
Unfortunately, it wasn't enough as he just needed to get in the end zone with a few more yards or a couple catches, but it wasn't enough. I forgot to mention because he wasn't quite good enough to make the top performer list, but for Red Sox Nation, Drake London caught a touchdown on only 3 catches, and that was the difference maker on the Monday night game. All right, now for duds for Amazing Spidey. He only had 1, but this was what was a deal breaker here. Kyler Murray at only 10 points. When you lose 20-point differential to your quarterback position and then lose the overall score by 10 points, that is the difference right there. There was no one on the bench for Amazing Spidey who could have helped, and he made it through the week without any injuries. Red Sox Nation, too, made it through the week without any major injuries, and that's more important for him as he is moving along. All right, on to our next game, our last game of the big boy bracket. Oh, my gosh. This one came down to Monday night as there was Jacoby Myers in the lineup for They Took Our Jobs up against Justin Jefferson for Kubert's Rage. Going into the matchup, I forget exactly how much they were down by here. I don't have that ready to go. But nonetheless, the final score here was 121.68 to 115.44. And with about 5 minutes left in the Raiders-Falcons game, Kubert's Rage had the lead by about 2.5 points, as Jacoby Myers at that point had 0 points. But when they went for those last 2 drives to try and make it a game, he caught 3 or 4 passes to finish up with 8.5 points. That gave They Took Our Jobs the 5-point victory. This was our closest game of the week, actually at just over 6 points. They Took Our Jobs had the highest projection of any team this week, which is usually the kiss of death, but his team did come through with that 121 points. Unfortunately for Kubert's Rage, who had a fine season, he finished the season here on a 3-game losing streak.
You're as cold as ice.
All right, now let's see what players helped They Took Our Jobs advance to the semifinals of the playoffs. Starting off with Josh Allen, this man, 41.28 points, and of course, he is chugging along. James Sweetfeet Connor had 28.3 points.
He's heating up.
That's where all those Arizona Cardinal points went. And Chase McLaughlin, the kicker for the Tampa Bay Bucks, added 18 points. He did have 1 dud They Took Our Jobs did, as Derrick Henry could only get 6.7 points. And he also had a lot of strong players on his bench. A lot of streaming quarterbacks did very well this week. Of course, they're not going to outperform Josh Allen, but keep away is good. Cooper Rush had 21 points. Drake May had 19.5 points.
He's heating up.
And Romeo Dubs, back off of concussions absence, had 17.5 points. Now for Cubert's rage. He had 6 top performers. When you score 115 points, you're going to have a lot of good scores. Starting off with James Cook on the rebound, getting 25.8 points. Jaden Daniels at 23.64 points.
He's on fire.
T. Higgins rebounds from the dud list, getting 17.3 points. Justin Jefferson was good, not as good as he would have liked, at 16.8 points.
He's on fire.
And Khalil Shakir, steady as always, at 12.9 points.
He's heating up.
And the Dallas defense has been pretty good this last month, getting 10 points. But this is where Cubert's rage lost this game. He only had one dud, and it came on the first night of the Week 15 slate as Cooper Kupp started off the week with 0 points. He did have one bench player of Jake Elliott who got 10 points. I'm not sure what his other kicker got, if that would have made a difference or not. Both these players made it through the week without any major injuries, but we have our semifinals set. I didn't ask you about the other game. Let's start with the Red Sox Nation versus Amazing Spidey. Do you have anything on that game before we get to Alex and Paul here?
No, nothing on that game. They played. That was a tough loss. That was a good game all around. Atlanta helped and let someone down all in the same time. True Atlanta fashion. So yeah, that was
if
it.
Drake London could only have been Darnell Mooney this week, that would have been perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, what about Alex versus Paul here?
Alex versus Paul. Yeah, the Cooper Kupp thing is a huge disappointment because you would expect, T. Higgins to get the goose, Khalil Shakir to get a goose, but Cooper Kupp, and he's not even hurt. How did he get a goose? I have no idea. So that's really what it comes down to. Everything else was perfect. The only thing I have to say, though, back to your game, your starts of the week were awesome, but they were all on a team that you played against.
Yeah.
What happened?
We'll talk about it when we review our starts of the week later.
Okay. All right. Yeah, but these are, like you said, heavyweight matchups, big boy bracket. This is why these guys are there, for those kinds of scores. So great job. For all the teams around there. All
right. So now our semifinals are set. We have Crazy Fish is going to host Red Sox Nation, and we have our number 1 seed, Mac Daddy 2s, is going to take on Alex's They Took Our Jobs. So that's going to be a very interesting matchup going forward. Do you have anything just on those teams that are left?
No, there should be another big shootout, right? I mean, everything there is good. Red Sox Nation and Crazy Fish, that should be Red Sox Nation taking down one brother in the quarterfinal and trying to take down the second brother in the semifinal. So he looks like he's gunning after your house, man. Your sigil. Your sigil is on fire, bud. What's going on?
All right. Okay. Don't be surprised if there's any mysterious ad drops from your roster getting into next week.
And then on the other side, Mac Daddy 2s, he's been strong all year. They Took Our Jobs. He's got the highest points in the league for the regular season. Like this, again, this should just come down to they're playing the right players. Those players got to produce on the field.
All right, guys. Now let's take a gander at our Goose-O-meter.
I'm just goosing along.
All right, the meter's climbing up. When will it stop? Nobody knows. Oh, now we have 28 gooses as we added 2 more gooses this week. Like the aforementioned Cooper Kupp and the San Francisco defense. So now we have a total of 28 gooses. This is ridiculous. I did stop adding the names on the list there because the font was just too small. All right, let's see. Oh, guess what, guys? It's now time for a Mike Rant.
Baby Rant. Karen Rant.
I don't care whose fault it is. I'm going to tell you exactly what I think.
Mike Rant.
All right. We're going to talk about fantasy football experts in quotes. All week I heard the Ravens defense are going to destroy the Giants. You know what? After the fact, I just went back and looked. The Ravens have never had higher than 5 points in any one game this year on defense. Why did I listen to that? Why did I believe it? And also, Kyler Murray, the start of the week, guys. You got to play him. New England gives up 25 points to quarterbacks over the last 5 weeks straight. You guys don't know what you're talking about. I'm sick and tired of it. You're just as wrong as we are. At least we own it. You guys all on your high horses thinking you're the best, knowing everything, and you don't care because you're in 45 leagues. If you're right half the time, you still advance. Some of the players out here that are listening to you are in 1, 2 leagues at the most, and every loss matters. And you guys just spit it out there thinking you know what you're talking about. Just admit you don't. You're like the GMs trying to draft quarterbacks in the first round. You don't know what you're talking about. My gosh, I was going to do a secondary rant, but this one's actually getting me fired up here. You know what? I'm going to add a second round. Never mind. 117 points isn't good enough? Are you kidding me? I was supposed to be playing Ben. He only had 75 points. This is trash. I should be going into the semifinals right now. I can't. I'm so angry right now. I'm having a full Hulk rant. I don't know what to do. All right. I'm bringing you in. Sorry, that was a little too much. I got a little worked up there. I got a couple things going on.
You do what you have to do. This is your platform. You say what you want to say on your platform, bud. This is why you do the work. Stay up late at night. You skip naps, you skip food, you skip graduations. You just skip it all. Nobody wants to go to a youth soccer game. Nobody does that. It's fantasy football to be had here.
I was trying to hold it in. I was trying to be respectful. But I'm really upset. I thought I was going to win this whole thing. I had the right matchups all year long. I had Jacksonville and Carolina playing all my players going next week. I don't know what's going to happen.
I mean, you're supposed to be this upset because we are literally playing a game where we try to predict what these players are going to do on the field, and we leave it up to them. Like why did Kyler Murray not produce more than 10 fantasy points? All he had to do was rush the ball. All he why?
Because he fumbled the first snap of the game and is glitched. All right. For those who are looking forward, we do have some waiver wire targets out there to help you improve your chance. I mean, I'm playing for 5th place and I'm going for it. So I'm going to be picking up some players this week. I got money. Some of you guys don't. So don't worry.
Oh, geez. He's still ranting over here.
All right. Sorry. All right.
Let me take over here. Sorry, folks. All right. Back to reason and I don't even know the right words. Never mind. Okay. Quarterback waiver wires. Let's look at it. Top options here. Aaron Rodgers. The connection again with Devontae Adams is coming back. I think we said it was coming back last week, so it's back. And he had just had his best showing of the season. So Rams matchup looks good this week. But Mike, that week 17 Buffalo weather, let's just say I'm checking the forecast hourly here. All right. Number 2, Mac Jones. Yeah, I said Mac Jones. Did we just see swagger from Mac Jones, scrambling, making plays, and now he gets the Raiders and Titans? Plus, they're setting things up to feed Brian Thomas Jr. I got his name right this time. This could actually work. All right, quick hits here. Mason Rudolph, he was accurate. He didn't stretch the field, but hey, the Colts and the Jaguars coming up. So if you're desperate, that's a good play. Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Now I know why they do DTR. DTR gets a start against Cincinnati, but the Browns passing game, Spencer Rattler might start week 16 against the Packers after nearly beating the Commanders. Maybe we can get something there. You got anything to add to that, quarterbacks?
Not names, but so in a way, I'm a little upset that I didn't consider picking up Rodgers for last week because we mentioned it was half a joke, but the Jacksonville won the matchup and the warm weather. He's on a roll now, but I don't think he's going to finish off as well as he's been playing the last. I really think that Florida weather is really a big part of how he's been doing here. And Mac Jones, not necessarily good, but they're letting him they're not featuring the running. They're letting him play. The coach are like, just go for it, kid. And if he's going to have some swagger while he's doing it, he's going to throw the ball. And if you got a good receiver you can throw the ball up to, why not do it? So I think he's actually a pretty decent streaming play. It's hard to trust. I wouldn't love. I'd try and find someone I'd feel more comfortable with. But with all these guys, I mean, Rodgers feels like more comfortable, but I actually think Mac Jones might be a better play going forward, even though Rodgers has been better going backwards.
Exactly. All right. Moving on to the running backs. So top options here, Mr. Jerome Ford. Did you see that 62-yard touchdown run? He was the fastest player on the field. And now with Chubb's broken foot, Ford is the guy in Cleveland. Empty those fab wallets. That's pretty standard talk right there. Number 2, Kenneth Gainwell. He looked sharp against Pittsburgh. So especially in the passing game with Barkley getting sideline treatment, the Eagles are eyeing that number 1 seed, so they might ease up on their star back. Gainwell could be a little playoff boost there. Secondary options, Amir Abdullah. He stepped up after McCormick left and could be a sneaky PPR play against Jacksonville if Ritter starts. Damian Pierce. Mixon's hip is acting up. And with the Texans clinching the AFC South, they might rest him. So we'll be stalking those practice reports like fantasy detectives over here. Quick hits, Ty Johnson. Josh Allen's not-so-secret weapon in the passing game. 2 solid weeks in a row if you're desperate in a PPR format.
I got Amir Abdullah up there as well. With McCormick, he's pretty much already been ruled doubtful. So I had him on my team yesterday. I didn't put him in the lineup, of course. And my phone goes off. I'm like, did something good happen? It's like, nope, injury. It goes from healthy to questionable. And then right when the game was over, it said, no. During the game, it said questionable to out. Questionable out. And then right when the game was over, it said out to questionable. And then today it says questionable to doubtful. So he's been all over the place. But being that he's already listed as doubtful before the week gets going, he's done. And he put a tweet out there saying like, I'll be back ready for next year. So nothing's been official by the team, but his indication is that he's not expecting to play anymore this year. So anyway, the Raiders are playing Jacksonville, and you would assume Madison would be the running downs back, and Abdullah be the passing downs back. Abdullah's been better the last 4 weeks. I know Madison didn't play in all those weeks, but even so, like he doesn't get all the work. But he only had a couple catches yesterday, but he had an awesome touchdown where he ran around everybody. And Jacksonville's defense is not good, but I don't think the Raiders' offense is good enough to just be like, we're going to run the ball. I think they're going to have to throw like they did this last game. And I think Jacksonville is good enough on offense. They're going to be throwing the ball back and forth with Brian Thomas Jr. and Mac Jones. And they're bad enough on defense to let the Raiders just throw the ball to try and come back. And we saw that Ritter likes to check it down as soon as he was throwing it backwards before he got the ball in his hands. It was pretty funny. So I think Abdullah's going to get a lot of play because he's going to be in a weird way comeback mode against Jacksonville, which is a team you can come back on. We just saw Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams get all that in comeback mode because the defense is not good enough to stop you, but the offense is good enough to make you have to chase points if your defense is not good.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay. All right, moving on to the pass catchers, wide receivers / tight ends. All right, top options, Brenton Strange. Putting up Evan Ingram numbers in the Evan Ingram role. So Las Vegas and Tennessee on deck. This could be your lottery ticket here. Rashad Bateman, long touchdown, check. End zone skills, check. Boom potential against Pittsburgh. Double check. Sure. He's a boom bust, but right now the boom is fresh on our minds. Number 3, Jalen McMillan, getting a hot at the perfect time with Baker cooking in the playoff matchup against Dallas and Carolina. This could be a sneaky good wide receiver 3 who wins you a title here. And Jalen Coker, 83-yard score, 3 other catches, and with Xavier Legette nursing the groin injury, that's opportunity knocking right there. Secondary options, Chigo Okonkwo, Mason Rudolph security blanket, I think so, against the Colts defense that just let Denver's tight ends feast. So, keep him on the radar. Stone Smart, 2 straight games with 50+ yards. So if you miss on Strange, Smart could be the next big thing on Thursday night. And then one quick hit, Foster Moreau, last second touchdown hero. So this is the desperation time. So desperate times calls for desperate measures.
Yeah, I like a lot of those guys. Maybe not trusting to put them in your lineup or anything, but Brenton Strange is getting a ton of targets for Jacksonville. Jalen McMillan is finally starting to before he looked kind of a little lost on the field. He would still get a catch now and again, but now he's not getting a lot of targets, but he's working well off of the gravity that Mike Evans is pulling. He's starting to find some soft spots, and he's quick enough if he can catch it in stride, he can run down the seam and score. So I think he's similar to Rashad Bateman. although he's going to catch shorter targets than Bateman would.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that he's fast enough that if he gets in the right timing and the way Baker's throwing the ball right now, he's throwing it so fat. His fastball is so on point that he can have space around and then take off from there from the open spot. Who else did you mention that caught my attention? Smart. So it happened to McConkey later in the game, and I think this we mentioned it was a Herbert problem. One, because his ankle, he came in banged up, and then he got tackled pretty hard on his lower leg during the game. And as the game was going on, you could see he wasn't stepping back on that foot to drive, and the balls are starting to sail. That's why McConkey started not catching that by the game went on. Smart, though, is bigger, and a couple went over his head as well, but he also caught a couple with outstretched hands. Mm-hmm. I think he looked pretty good. He's a tight end, but he looked like a wide receiver to me. Like, he didn't look slow. He was tall. He's not slender, but like he looks like a power forward. Like, so I think he's one of those guys. If he catches it, he can run with it. Especially if Herbert can get it healthy enough to not have these balls sail. You have to worry about the health of Herbert there. But if Herbert's feeling good, I think Smart's a really solid play. I think he's their second receiver, honestly, Smart to McConkey. I think Palmer is just one of those like random catch guys. I think Quentin Johnson is a one-trick pony kind of guy. The other two guys are going to hit your seams. McConkey on the left seam, Smart on the right seam, and that's where he wants to throw it.
Yeah. So, and you got to remember at this point in the season, in the NFL season, you got fresh people on these lists here. You got fresh legs. You got fresh people that defenses haven't really had to pay attention to. And then obviously look at your matchups, look at your roster, and see where these guys could fit in, if they could fit in.
And especially this time of year, especially for our managers who are still in that big boy bracket here, at a certain point, you have a lot of players on your team that you're waiting to see what might happen. That might happen is never going to come now. You know what I mean? Like, you're not dropping people that are going to hurt you. Might as well. You have more bench spots than you realize you can play with potentially to start just getting some blocking guys. Even if it's just to do that 3-day block, just pick up somebody and drop them the next day, and just kind of keep the your opponent's options as limited as possible. You can't block everybody, but you can at least make the choice. You can have them choose the player you want them to choose as opposed to one of 4 players, maybe only one of 1.
There you go. All right. You got anything for kickers or defense on your side?
I've got a couple defenses here. They're not great here. I've got Detroit, who is really banged up, and their defense has been struggling lately, but they're also been playing against some high-powered offenses. They coming off a 0-point game last week. However, I think Detroit, they had that fight in them, man. I think they're going to muster it up here and come back off that loss strong. We'll see. That's my thought here. They're playing Chicago. I think they're going to look to take advantage of Chicago and get after Caleb Williams. They were shutting them down last time in that first half until Caleb Williams got a little comeback mode style here. I think this time they're going to dominate from start to finish. And there's a sneaky chance Detroit might have a good defense even without some of their best players. Jacksonville versus Las Vegas. In that first half against the Jets, Jacksonville actually looked pretty good. And if they can get up by that much against someone like the Raiders, I don't think the Raiders can come back the way no one can come back the way that Devontae Adams and Rodgers did last week. So they might be able to get up by that 10 to 15 points. It might just be able to put their ears back and get to Ritter a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree there.
All right, guys. It is now time to review our starts of the week for the previous week. We did good.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it was all right. It wasn't perfect, but it was good.
Okay. It was almost perfect.
Yes.
All right, so going into last week, we were 33-45 after a couple awful stretches there. I was 19-20. Bernie was at 14-25. He's having we're both having a rough go these last couple weeks. But during week 15, however, this last week, let's see. Why don't you read off your 3 starts of the week? I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. All right. So at quarterback, I had Mr. Jaden Daniels, projected at 21.6, and he came through with a 23.6. Next up, I had at running back Aaron Jones, and he was projected at a 13.7, and he came through with a good game at 17.6. So look at that, 2 for 2 so far. I'm rolling, right? And then next up, this is a good matchup here. This is the Baltimore matchup. Remember that quarterback that threw 5 touchdowns for Baltimore? I have one of the wide receivers as my start of the week, Mr. Zay Flowers, only 11.9 projected. He just needs a touchdown and a few yards. He'll get that, no problem. Ended with an 8.3. He didn't get a touchdown. He threw 5 touchdowns, and you couldn't get Zay Flowers a touchdown.
All right, my starts of the week, and I'll tell you where my errors were here. But anyway, Jalen Hurts at quarterback, projected for 22, ended up with 30.1. Rico Dowdle, projected at 12.5 without the touchdown, even got to 14.9. And C.D. Lamb at 11 points projected, finished with, I have 19.2. Did he have more than that?
Yeah, 22.1.
Yeah, I think I put League Neighbors number in there. He had 22 something. Say it again,
22.1.
Okay.
0.1. Yeah.
Either way, they all beat their projections. So I was 3 for 3. Bernie was 2 and 1. So at the end of week 15, we are now at 38 and 46 total. I'm at 22 and 20. Bernie's at 16 and 26. And I'll tell you my mistake. The last, 3 to 5 weeks, I've been putting one of my opponent's players in there to do a double reverse jinx. It worked on Kamara last week. It worked on another player. And I was like, I don't know. I got to put them all in. It's just like Tropic Thunder. You don't go all reverse jinx kibosh here. I went too far. I should have picked one of them. They might have failed, but going all 3 was just a slap in my face. But I got them all right. So in this game, you win some, you lose some.
Yeah, but there's no prize at the end of this starts of the week crap. Oh, man. I'm sorry. No, you know what? No, let's just.
We got better. I'm going to tell you this right now. Part of our rant here, we had better starts of the week than all the shows I've been listening to all week last week. So screw you guys.
There you go.
If you want to get starts of the week, come to this show. We'll be just as wrong, just as often as those guys, and at least we'll tell you when it happens. We won't just hide under our 55 leagues we own. Okay. All right. Now I'm not bitter, guy. I'm not bitter. I'm okay.
Not bitter at all. No, not at all.
All right, guys. It is now, unfortunately, for some, we have now added to the kennel. We've got a couple more sad puppies.
Wingman Fantasy Football. Sad puppies.
I don't know who to start with here. We'll just start with myself. Let's just put it out there. All right, Michael's Amazing Spidey. You start off the season 0-3. You didn't score over 100 points until week 8. And then you topped the century mark 6 of the next 7 weeks, averaging just under 110 points during that span. You had higher hopes. You wanted to get further along in the playoffs. But if you asked yourself after week 6, would you even make the playoffs? You would have said maybe at best. Although you finished in the kennel, you did win your division, and you did earn some money. All right. Paul's Cuba Rage. Oh, man. You started off so hot this season. The first week, you scored almost 142 points. You started off 5-1. We all assumed you'd be the number 1 seed with a couple weeks left to go. But a 2-game losing streak at the end of the regular season ended a chance for a playoff bye. A regular season payout and a heartbreaking 3rd loss in a row ended your season a little too short. For the 2nd straight year, Paul's Cuba Rage and Amazing Spidey will meet in the consolation game after horrible defeats in the big boy bracket. Paul, good season. Tough sledding at the end. We'll expect you back next year, my man. All right. One note before I pass it to Bernie here on his thoughts for these sad puppies. All right. I want to mention here the Fantastics. Remember, our last place team, no shade, just saying what's happening here, finished at 3-11. 3-11. But he went 3-0 against our 2 newest sad puppies. He beat me twice, 2-0, and he also beat Paul's Cuba Rage in what was his Super Bowl at the time. So, Fantastics, you are the spoiler even after the season ends. If we would have beat you one of those times, we would have had buys. So you did your job. Well done. Last place spoiler. All right, what do you have on these new puppies that are joining the kennel here?
I don't have any. You pretty much said it, man. It's hard. This is just what happens. Teams got to go home. We're in the playoff picture. They weren't blowouts, so that's good. It came down to Monday night games, so that's exciting. So it's good all around. You just hopefully next show that you're on that you get everything out in this show, and we just move on. We're just moving on.
You're asking a lot, my man. You are asking a lot.
You have another game to play though. It's like this loss is done. It's over. You got to focus on the next game.
I still got 12 more hours to lament. Okay. All right, guys. I want to thank you all so very much for watching our very last show of this show we'll ever do. I appreciate that. No, I'm kidding. All right. Thank you guys for joining us for another edition of Wingman Fantasy Football, the League podcast. Don't forget you can find our audio feeds on YouTube Music, Amazon Music, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. I'm doing this in different orders, guys. You don't know which way I'm going to go. Also, if you're not sure if you want to watch and or listen, go ahead and find our webpage at wingmanentertainment.net/podcast. And if you know you want to watch the rant in full glory, you can go ahead to our YouTube channel here at wingmanfantasyfootball.com/YouTube. When you head over there, please hit that like button. Hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, guys. Leave a comment. Let me know. You can make fun of me. I'll take it. I understand. Or you can talk trash. Also, pick some Wingman Jam teams, people. We only got 2 weeks left. All right. With that being said, guys, may your glasses be full. Oh, mine's going to be empty right after the show. May your glass be full. Your mugs stay frosty.
And may your opponent's star player suddenly discover competitive bird watching.
All right, guys. We will see you next time. It should have been Ben.